Good afternoon, everybody. At the very outset, let us accord a very warm welcome to our speaker, Mr. Mohandas IAS. Give a big hand. We are very fortunate that today we have with us Mr. Mohandas, who has been in the Indian administrative service for a very long time, maybe 36, 37 years. He passed his undergraduate degree from the University of Kerala. Then immediately at the age of 21, perhaps younger than some of you, at that age, he joined the Indian administrative service. He was posted in the Kerala cadre, where he took up various positions at the district level and in the government. He was collector in Kottayam, where he became immensely popular. After that, he moved to the secretariat and rose up in the ladder, became secretary, then moved to the center. He was one of the senior most secretaries at Delhi, then came back to Kerala and retired from here. After taking his graduate degree from here, with a break, he went abroad and took a master's degree in fiscal policy. So this adds another flavor to his presentation today, because he is not only an administrator, but also a person who is deeply involved in the academics as well. During his career here, he had opportunity to act as Vice Chancellor in Calicut University as well as this university. So he has a fairly clear idea of how a university functions. I came to know him only 2 years ago when I joined the Kerala, the 11th Pay Revision Commission. He was the chairman of the commission. When I joined the commission, I didn't have any idea about administration. But my interaction with him almost for 2 years gave me a lot of insight into administration, the nuances of administration, the advantages of administration, and if I draw one of his expressions, the cafe attitude of the Indian bureaucracy as well. I am indeed fortunate that I had the opportunity to have a quick look at his latest book on governance and administration in India. I'm about to finish that book. It's a wonderful piece which will give us a lot of insight into administration and governance in the country. I'm sure that you will benefit a great deal from his talk today. And we have today with us 16 students are in the class. They are from varied backgrounds. Almost half of them are from either economics or commerce. The remaining half either from statistics or mathematics. And our course is, as you know already, econometrics and financial technology. It's a combination of economics, finance, econometrics, and financial technology. So some of them may be aspirants to join the coveted Indian administrative service. So your presentation today will be of immense use to them. And I use this opportunity to accord a very warm welcome to you, sir. Now, I don't want to stand in between the students and the speaker. So let me request most honored speaker, Mr. Mohandas IAS, to this gathering. And I request him to deliver his address. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Sumar Nair. And thanks for the kind introduction. Well, there is a slight exaggeration in it, in the sense that he mentioned that I joined the Indian Administrative Service at the age of 21. Well, you become eligible only at the age of 21, so the process takes 1 year. So by the time I joined, I was 22 and spent 38 years in the service. Well, that aside, today's presentation is on the civil service, and it's such a vast subject that it's not possible to cover even a minor part of the relevant topics within the limited time. So I'll touch upon only some of the aspects, and in fact, my idea is that I'll speak for about 40 minutes or so, and the rest of the time can be utilized for interaction, so that if you have anything to ask me, this would be an opportunity to do that. So I'll go into my presentation. So the presentation will use the full screen, so I may not be able to see you during the presentation as such, but I hope you will be able to see the presentation properly. In case there is any difficulty, please do let me know, so that I can try to manage it suitably. So I will now go to my presentation. Okay, is the presentation there on the screen?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So the title is Opportunities in the Civil Service, Sunrise Through Dark Clouds. And the latter expression is Professor Sukumaran Nayer's contribution. So, we'll come to it. Now, before we start, I'm just quoting a statement made by the great leader whom the civil servants consider as the patron of India's civil service, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. The same Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel who is credited with the integration of independent India's princely states and all that, who is called the Iron Man of India, and who stands tall as the tallest statue in the world in the Narmada Valley in Gujarat. What he said was, you will not have a united India if you do not have a good All India service which has independence to speak out its mind. So, if you remember, the context is the debate in the Constituent Assembly, where they were preparing the constitution for independent India. And at that time, the premier civil service of India was called the ICS, the Indian Civil Service, which was manned mostly by Englishmen, Britishers, and partly by Indians also. But then the problem with that service was that many of the leaders who agitated, who were part of the freedom struggle against the British, did not really get along with these officers of these services. So they used to say that the ICS, the Indian Civil Service, is neither Indian nor civil nor is it a service. So many of the very, very prominent members wanted the whole thing to be dismantled, the whole administrative system to be revamped. But then Sardar Patel was the strongest votary of retaining the All India services, rename it as Indian Administrative Service or whatever it is, but you need such a service for the integrity of India, retaining India as one unit. So this single statement, plus of course it is not a single statement, Patel has made several other statements which have made him somewhat like a patron for the civil services. You must have heard of the Civil Services Day, which is again in memory of a speech by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. So in this presentation, I'm broadly covering the structure of the governments, the structure of the civil service as service, and the civil service as a career. I'll quickly go through these things so that you get you know many of these things, but I'm targeting the person whose knowledge is probably the lowest, the minimum. So there are three levels of government in India: the central government, the state government, and the local governments. Although we probably do not give that much recognition to the local governments, they are also governments. The rural areas have the 3-tier panchayats, at the village level, the block level, and the district level. And the urban areas have the municipalities or municipal corporations. And in all these places, the power is in the hands of elected executives who are assisted by the permanent officers. So what is the civil service? It is government officials employed in civil occupations, civil differentiated from the military. So they're not political, they're not judicial, and they are permanent. They are not elected for a term, they are part of a regular permanent service, which forms the backbone of the administrative system. In fact, for the top civil service, the term used was the steel frame. This the expression steel frame, of course, many people attribute it to again Sardar Patel, the Iron Man. But this statement was originally made by a British Prime Minister called Lloyd George. And of course, there is a lot of debate now going on whether the expression steel frame is to be used or not, because some people would like to call it degraded rusted steel, or some would like to call it aluminum instead of steel, or even wood or plastic, or even rubber, I think the most elastic thing. So the steel frame is the original expression, but maybe the connotations have changed over the years. But then, the civil service, which is even otherwise called bureaucracy, theoretically, there is a very, very strong case for having a structure like this, because it constitutes the most efficient and rational way in which human activity can be organized. Systematic processes and organized hierarchies are necessary to maintain order, to maximize efficiency, and to eliminate favoritism. This is a statement by the foremost theorist on the civil service by name Max Weber. Now, the three arms of government: the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. The legislature has the elected members, the members of parliament or the members of the legislative assemblies. The executive has two parts: the political executive, which consists of the ministers and all, and the civil service, which is the permanent bureaucracy. The judiciary is considered independent. There is an overlap between legislature and executive. There is a slight mistake in the slide. The overlap is between the legislature and the executive. Because the executive is headed by people from the legislature. So that way there's an overlap. The judiciary is independent, but there is a system of executive magistrates who are again from the executive. The district collector, for example, is also the district magistrate. It's an executive magisterial function. It's not 100% judicial function. Now, just to give you a brief introduction to the structure of the civil service in India, in the central government, the boss of the civil service is the cabinet secretary. Then there are secretaries to government in the various ministries or departments like agriculture, defense, external affairs, various other departments. The secretariat has a hierarchy with below the secretary, you have additional secretaries, joint secretaries, like that. There is a hierarchy. Then there are the field departments, which are not in the secretariat, but they are the sort of field departments. You have the autonomous organizations, like the National Highways Authority of India is an autonomous organization. You have public sector undertakings, which are owned by the government, which may be sold out to private enterprise tomorrow, but public undertakings are like ONGC, FACT, Cochin Shipyard. These are all central public sector undertakings. State government structure is also very similar. You have the chief secretary at the top, the secretaries on various levels. You have the field departments like headed by the Director General of Police, Director General of General Education, chief engineers, etc., autonomous organizations, public undertakings, etc. Now, if you look at the levels of government, the topmost is the policy-making level in the secretariat. The implementation level, which is the heads of departments, like I mentioned, DGP, chief engineer, etc. You have the district administration headed by the district collectors and district officers. You have taluk and block level offices, and then local cutting edge level, village offices, police stations, local bodies, etc. Now, this being the broad structure, there are issues, and the issues are so many. But if you quickly go look at the quick issue, the issues, corruption is a major issue, and probably I'm sure you'd have read a report on the suicide of a woman employee in the motor vehicles department in Wayanad, where the issue of corruption is being discussed a great deal. And reports say that she was finding it difficult to exist honestly in an atmosphere of corruption. Delays, yes. Indiscipline. Again, live examples. You know what is happening in the Kerala State Electricity Board. Daily reports are coming in. Indiscipline is again one major issue. Politicization, yes, because administration has to be fair. Wasteful expenditure. I don't have to give examples. And secrecy in government, although there are any number of systems for transparency is still lacking, and secrecy is the way of life. And these are problems, but there are solutions. There are interventions that are being done. Not that the governments are not doing anything. Lots of things are being done. Perhaps the most important way of improving our administration and making it transparent, making it speedy, would be the adoption of technology. Lots of things have happened. Like in the past, if you wanted a birth certificate or a death certificate, you had to visit the local panchayat or municipal office any number of times. But then now, sitting at home, you can download the birth and death certificate. So this is something which can really change the whole delivery of administrative services. This is something which governments are attempting, and there is a sort of daily improvement in this. Technology is available. You go in for the latest, like everybody speaks about blockchain. Maybe blockchain, you are a fintech student, so you know what the applications of blockchain in banking and all are. But then the land administration, the maintenance of land records is an ideal candidate for adoption of blockchain technology. So this is something which is happening, but probably not fast enough. The second thing is transparency. You have the right to information law, both in the central government and in the state governments and in all governments. But this is something in which the governments are certainly not happy. In fact, the governments, not only governments, even judicial authorities, the tendency, the temptation is to withhold information and give out as little information as possible. The right to information law is good enough. Actually, one cannot think of improving it. It is good enough. But then the utilization has not been for public benefit so far. The third thing I've mentioned is strong vigilance mechanisms. This again is very, very important because vigilance is a system of watching from the top, from outside, whatever is happening. Social audit. Social audit means involving the people in any project which is being done by the government. If you are constructing a village road, let the people of the place be involved. Let them contribute. Let them give their ideas. Let them act as watchdogs over the way the road is being constructed. Let them ensure that the entire material sort of brought for the construction of the road would be used for that road itself. So this is something which the public can do. And social audit, again, one very, very positive thing happening is that governments are slowly accepting the importance of social audit. And this is being introduced in respect of several projects. It has to be part of everything. Government will become more transparent. Right to services. We have a law on the right to services. You must get, if you apply for a service, you must get a action within so many days. So this is specified, but again, it's not effective enough. Could have been much more effective. Then another very, very important requirement is the empowerment of citizens. Empowerment through literacy, general literacy, reading, writing, and basic arithmetic and all that. Financial literacy, so that they are not duped by others. Legal literacy, so that they know their rights, consumer rights, other rights, right against action by the police and all that. And basic technological literacy, because when we are transforming government as a digital government, it is necessary that people, the citizens, the common man, is able to get his things done through technology. I mean, technology may be a big word. Simply through their mobile phones, they should be able to, using their mobile phones, they should be able to get their things done. Then, of course, the attitudinal change of employees through training. There's a very, very interesting development that happened some 4 days back. Actually, I mean, initially I thought this is something which happened on the 1st of April, which is our April Fool's Day. But what has happened is that the Sikkim government has already issued an order saying that all non-performing employees, whether it is All India Service officers or chief engineers or whatever be the level, they would all be transferred to a department of coordination, paid their salaries, nothing more. This is what Sikkim has introduced. Of course, there is one way of handling, but probably not the best way of handling non-performing employees. But this is something which has been done, although in a small state in India. Basically, I mean, as it happens everywhere in any organization, these 80-20 rules or 20-60-20 rules, they apply. So 20% of the personnel give 80% of the output. So basically, these are adaptations of Pareto principle, according to which this ratio is very relevant. The ratios may be approximations, but this is the way things are happening in government as well. Now, if you can read it, please read. These are messages given by some very, very important people. Mahatma Gandhi said, whenever you are in doubt or when the self becomes too much with you, apply the following test. Recall the face of the poorest and the weakest man whom you may have seen and ask yourself if the step you contemplated is going to be of any use to you. In fact, this is something which, if taken seriously, can help in decision making to help the weaker sections. Because as an administrator, I would personally say that is, there are issues, everybody is equal in front of the law. But then, if the weaker man has a problem, I would say that there is no injustice in giving a slight weightage to the weaker person if his problems can be solved. So that is a very, very important message, a talisman which Mahatma Gandhi has. And Sardar Patel said, it will be your bounden duty to, he was addressing the civil servants, it will be your bounden duty to treat the common man in India as your own, or to put it correctly, to feel yourself to be one of them and amongst them. This was Sardar Patel's speech to the first batch of the Indian Administrative Service officers on the 21st of April. And that April 21 has since then become the Civil Services Day, which is observed nationally. And the third important statement, whether the political party of the government, the ministers and so on is partial or impartial is a small matter. What is of importance is the impartiality of the administration. The administration, in my judgment, is far more important than government as such. And who made this statement? Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who is the architect of the Indian Constitution. Because all these, whether it is the civil service or other parts of the administration or government, they get their power from the Constitution. And the main architect of the Constitution himself has made the statement that the administration, independence of the administration, impartiality is far more important than government itself. But then times are changing. You don't have the Sardar Patels and the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar type of people now. The people of our current generation are definitely different from Sardar Patel or Ambedkar or I mean, people of that generation. So now the big debate is civil servants should be committed. Committed to whom? Committed to the Constitution and the law? Yes, they should be. Committed to the people at large? Yes. Committed to the political party in power? No, very clearly they should not be, because political parties change. Political parties in power, they may not be in power always. And whichever party is in power, it's the permanency of the civil service which adds to the administrative efficiency of the whole country. And commitment to one's own conscience, yeah, I think that would be the most crucial thing. But then commitment to the Constitution, law, and the people, that naturally that has to prevail over even the commitment to one's own conscience. One big challenge is demoralization of the services. I'm sure how many of you, I'm not sure how many of you would have read the recent articles on the IAS itself, where the former IAS officers have been debating whether the IAS has failed the country or the IAS has done its best in difficult circumstances. It's a debatable point, but the discussion is going on, and the real danger of demoralization is a fact. And this demoralization happens due to several reasons. I don't wish to go into details on these things, but some of the things which are not really sort of contributing to the efficiency and integrity of the administration are, one, of course, is the central government's system of lateral induction at senior levels. where officers from the private sector are inducted for specific periods, 5 years, to hold senior positions in government. The big question of where their loyalties lie is certainly not answered satisfactorily, because someone coming in from the private sector for a limited period, empowered to perform tasks in government on behalf of government, and then going back to the private sector for the rest of his service, certainly doesn't inspire confidence in people who love the system. So that is, I think, one form of demoralization. Then, of course, the political fight between the central governments and some of the state governments. Some of the ugly fights between, say, for example, the central government and the West Bengal government, for example. These are all examples of demoralization of officers, using them as tools in their political fights and all that. Now, this is something that let's hope that these things will change. Now, let me come to the second part of the presentation, which is on the more details of the civil services. You have the All India services, there are 3 All India services now, which are the Indian Administrative Service, the Indian Police Service, and the Indian Forest Service. Then you have the Central Services Class 1, which are the Indian Foreign Service, the Indian Revenue Services. There are 2 of them, one on the income tax side, the direct taxes side, and one on the customs and GST and all, the indirect taxes side. You have the Indian Audit and Account Service, the Indian Postal Service. Similarly, there are a few other services as well. The civil service has other levels also. Central services class 2, class 3, and then you have the state services also. I presume you know what the distinction between the All India services and the central services is. The All India services are these 3 services: IAS, IPS, IFS. These are services in which people are recruited, appointed nationally, allotted to various states. They work in the state cadres as well as under the central government. So this is the pattern of the All India services. The central services are services fully under the central government. Officers serve the central government for their entire period of service. So that's about the distinction between All India services and central services class 1. The recruitment to the civil services is done primarily by the Union Public Service Commission for the All India services, the Central Services Group A, and some of the Central Services Group B. Then the State Public Service Commissions recruit for the state services, including like the State Administrative Services. I'm sure you have heard of the Kerala Administrative Service, like that. The State Public Service Commissions recruit for the state governments. And these, the UPSC and the State Public Service Commissions, they're all created by the Constitution itself. Then you have the Staff Selection Commission in the central government for the Central Services Groups B and C. The UPSC conducts the civil service examinations. This is for recruitment to the IAS, IPS, and the Group A Central Services. There is an annual selection. Examinations are conducted almost every year. The qualification, I'm sure you know, it's graduation. The age is 21 to 32 with relaxations for the reserved categories. And 3 stages: a preliminary exam, a written mains examination, and a personality test. Now, this preliminary test is objective type, is generally notified in the month of February, and the examination is in June. There are 2 papers. Paper 1 general studies and paper 2 aptitude. Paper 2 is a qualifying paper where you qualify if you get 33% marks. Paper 1, of course, is the competitive paper, and so the marks in that really decide the qualification for moving ahead. And the experience in the last few years is that about 10 lakhs candidates apply for the examination. About 5 lakhs take the preliminary examination. And about 10,000 are screened to take the written mains examination. And the mains written examination has 9 papers, of which 2 are qualifying papers with a minimum of 25%. These are the language papers. One is English and one is the selected Indian language. Then there are 7 competitive papers, of which 4 are general studies papers and 2 are in an optional subject which the candidate selects, and 1 is an essay paper. So the written mains carry a total marks of 1750. Then you have the personality test, which is an interview by a board of 5 members. Total marks would be 275 marks. This usually happens in April, May, which means that it is going on now. In fact, one of the things which keeps me busy these days is meeting the candidates who are going for the UPSC's personality test. And the final ranking is based on the total marks for the written mains and the personality test. So that is the whole scheme of the examination. So who should prepare for the civil service examinations? I would say those with the right attitudes should do it. Whatever be the background, whatever be the discipline in which they have graduated. It's basically a question of attitude. And some of the requisites I have tried to identify. One is social commitment. You have to have some sort of commitment to the society in which you live if you are to be a member of the civil services. Potential for leadership. Leadership is not exclusively a political activity. You need leaders in the civil services as well. So one has to be equipped to be an efficient team leader if you are a part of the civil service. The capacity and willingness for hard work for extended hours. This is one of the demands through most part of your service. This is necessary. Above average intelligence and a lot of common sense. I'm not harping on high intellect because, in fact, there are highly intelligent officers who have always been toppers in their academic career, but have failed as civil service officers. So it's because that common sense part was lacking. Because you need intelligence, of course, you need intelligence, but common sense is definitely a much more important element. Priority for work over personal matters and willingness to sacrifice personal comforts on occasions. The statement is obvious. I think this happens. This has happened to me. It happens to all the officers. Discipline and acceptance of limitations in personal freedom. Here again, you have to sacrifice your freedom for this because you may not like the way Narendra Modi or Pinarayi Vijayan are functioning. You would like to speak out against them. But then, if you are a civil servant, definitely not. Whatever be the temptation, you shall not speak out against the government of the day. So that sort of compulsion, that sort of that's a requirement for every civil servant. You have to accept the system, that you are part of the system. Then capability for unbiased and critical analysis of any matter. This is very, very important because issues come before the civil servant. And the civil servant must be capable of identifying and analyzing the pros and cons of any matter before reaching a final conclusion. So that capability is definitely required. Moral and intellectual integrity. It has to be highlighted. Personal integrity has to be highlighted. And in fact, I was doing some research on the Constitution, and the word integrity, personal integrity, does not appear in the Constitution of India. The word integrity appears in a couple of places, but that is in the context of unity and integrity of the country, and not in respect of personal integrity. And my explanation to myself is because this was a time, this constitution was prepared way back between 1947 and 49 by the great national leaders of those days. And they probably thought that, integrity, honesty, these things are basic ethics. These things are automatic. They must have presumed that these things will happen. But then the type of people who have come subsequently have definitely belayed all the expectations or the hopes of those people. Another requirement I've identified is the clarity in thinking, which goes along with the other items. Now, with all this, what is the reward that you get in the civil service? Why should anybody join the civil service? There is no simple, direct answer to it. The first, quickest answer would be, I have not mentioned it here, job security. If you are in government, you are safe for the rest of your active life till you retire at the prescribed age of retirement. But for the top civil service, I would say that is not the important thing. Job satisfaction. You get a lot of satisfaction doing things. Unmatched opportunities, sense of achievement, prestige and recognition, and along with that, decent remuneration. So when I say unmatched opportunities, you have something in your mind. Can you do it? The answer is you get opportunities to do things. I'll tell you just maybe one example from it's a sort of personal example. Way back in the year between 91 to 96, I was in charge of the Department of Local Self-Government in the state of Kerala. And so we had, there were already lots of schemes for rural poverty alleviation. There were central schemes and various other schemes. Urban poverty was not really addressed. So the central government introduced some schemes. And when these schemes came, in fact, the discussions with some of the people, knowledgeable people, brought up an idea that the most effective way of implementation of the scheme would be through the organizations of the beneficiaries themselves, especially women. So then we structured a scheme for formation of neighborhood groups of about 20 women of a neighborhood. Above that, these groups come together in what's called an area development society at the municipal ward level, and then a community development society at the municipal level, entirely manned by women who will be trained, whose capacity will be created for managing these things. This was started in Alappuzha municipality in the year 1992. And all of us concentrated on it, put in lots of efforts on this. In 3 years' time, in 1995, this was recognized by the United Nations, and the chairperson of this Municipal Community Development Society, who was a lady from a slum area in Alappuzha. She was invited to New York to receive the award from the UN. So she went and received it. Simultaneously, we had also extended this to all other municipalities and to the whole of Malappuram district. Then what happened in 1996, there was a change of government. the new government came in and they thought this was a wonderful opportunity. And they gave this program, they extended this program to the whole state, rural and urban. They gave it a very beautiful name called Kudumbashree. They invited the Prime Minister, then Prime Minister Vajpayee, to inaugurate it in 1998. And this program has now become one of the most reputed, internationally reputed, effective, locally effective structures created by the government. So why I'm saying this is, this was something which was thought of by an officer, that the best way to implement a poverty alleviation program is through the beneficiaries themselves, through their organization, instead of doing it through a government office or through an outside non-governmental organization. So, and this really took off. It grew much beyond expectations. And see, so if you have some sort of ideas like that, not that you must have the idea at this point of time, but when you are doing a particular job, ideas will come to you and you will be able to do those things. And these things are possible only for the top civil servants. I think that is the biggest reward that you can get from from being a part of the civil service. Well, I can go on and on, but I've decided to stop my presentation here, and let us now discuss things which may come to your mind, so that this will be a participatory exercise instead of a one-way lecture. So I stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, our honored speaker, Mr. Mohan Das. It was a very lucid and brilliant presentation. Within such a short time, he presented the structure of civil service, the issues, the solutions, the kind of qualifications and exams that are to be taken. And once you are in, what do you gain out of that? And what personal qualities you should have. These were the issues that he discussed in quite elaborately, but I have just mentioned that very briefly. Now, the floor is open for discussion. The students can ask questions. If you disagree with him, you can mention that. Or if you want to get more information from him, you can ask him. Please. Please introduce yourself first.
Hi, sir. Can you hear me?
Not audible enough.
Now, sir, my name is Anjana. So my question is.
No, not clear.
Yeah, no. Oh.
Yeah.
Sir,
Can you go to the podium and ask so that it will be louder? Still grappling with technology.
Okay, Anjana, start speaking.
I think that they are arranging the thing. I am sitting in the next room, not in the same room.
Okay, okay, right.
Yeah.
Sir, can you? Sir, am I audible now?
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
Sir, my question is,
Yes.
sir, my question is that uh, you got into civil service at a very young age. So, what inspired you to get into the service?
Is it clear to you?
Could you repeat?
Speak slowly so that it becomes clearer.
The voice level, the sound level is okay, but I missed that crucial part of your question.
First, mention your name and then start.
Sir, my name is Anjana. So my question
Sorry, I can't see you or.
No, she has gone to the other room where there is another computer.
Okay. Yeah.
my question is, you got into civil service at a
Sorry,
very
sound level is inadequate. No, actually, sound level was okay where you were sitting.
So, sir, my question is, you got into civil service at a very young age. So, what inspired you to get into the service?
Okay. Actually, my personal story may not be of that great relevance because it happened almost half a century back. So I think times have changed a lot. And for me, what really happened was that I did my graduation in chemistry. I was doing my master's in chemistry. But then, see, I had, this attitudinal problem that I did not want to end up as a chemistry teacher or as a chemist, as a chemist, lab technician or whatever it is, or a researcher in chemistry. So that part was clear to me. And I have all along had this this feeling that the civil service is the best career option for a socially committed Indian young person. So that feeling was already there. I come from a very, backward area. From a rural area, studied in a rural school. But of course, college education was in the cities. But then there was always this sort of this feeling that a generalist service is what would suit me. And in those days, the tendency like that exists even now. That is, you make the choice after the 10th standard to choose mathematics, biology, or humanities. And my choice was, of course, no biology. So I was compelled to take mathematics, the mathematics group. After that, then went on to chemistry and all that. But all along, the inclination was for general studies, and I used to sort of keep abreast of the current affairs, whatever is happening around me. Had a lot of interest in political, economic, social, and all types of developments that are happening in this country. So I think that is the type of attitude that is required for anyone who wants to join civil service. That is, look around you, look at the people around you, what are the things that are happening in our society, and have a feeling of involvement in these issues. I mean, not around you does not mean that in your classroom. What happens in Russia and Ukraine is definitely a matter of concern for us. You must feel sort of definitely concerned about what is happening in Ukraine. You must feel concerned about what is happening in Sri Lanka. So, and you must be definitely concerned about what was happening in the rest of India, in Kerala, in your own place. So I think this all-round interest is something which I would rate as a good quality for a civil service aspect.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. My name is Munfik Fasik. Sir, can you explain more about the personality test? I would like to know what kind of questions are asked.
Yes, I think it's a very vast subject. But the personality test is basically a test of personality, not of knowledge, because the knowledge of the candidates has already been tested through the written examinations. So it's basically a test of the personality or the all-round personality. Again, they look at what I just mentioned, that is the level of interest you take in whatever is happening around you, and your potential for leadership in situations, your sympathy to the weaker sections of society. So, I mean, so various attitudes, various aptitudes, the various facets of your character, they try to analyze it within the limited time of about half an hour, which is available to the board. And these boards normally consist of senior persons, mostly retired persons retired from government. I myself have been part of the UPSC interview board for on 4 occasions, 4 years. So you look at the overall features and make an assessment, the best possible within the half an hour time available, and take a view.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, sir. Sir, my name is Anasia, and being an economics student, I would like to know about Indian Economic Service of IAS. And I've heard that there's a separate examination for it, and I would like to know about that.
Okay, the Indian Economic Service, the Indian Statistical Service, these are all separate. The examinations are conducted by the UPSC. It's a different examination. And these services are extremely important services because the Niti Aayog, the major departments, ministries in the government of India, they all make use of the service of the Indian Economic Service Officers for various policy related analysis and getting inputs. So the scheme of the examination definitely, I'm not going to details, but the syllabus is available in the on the UPSC website, and it's very simple. It's roughly, master's level. Someone with a master's degree in economics should not find it difficult to do reasonably well at the examinations. Somehow our contribution, in fact, Professor Suvarna and I were discussing some time back, the number of candidates contributed by the Kerala universities is certainly not a decent percentage. So,
Thanks.
okay. Don't be walking, please run.
So am I audible? So my name is Manu. I want to ask the question about the optional subjects present in the mains examination. So I heard that the chemistry is also in the list of the openings or optional subjects, and many other subjects like sociology were also present in that. So which type of subject is more selective or more easier to select as option?
The answer is very, very simple. Select the subject with which you are the most comfortable and where you expect to score the best marks. Normally, this is the subject which you have done for your degree or post-graduation. But if you feel that you are not good enough in that subject, it is definitely a better option to study some of the humanities subjects like, for example, I'll give you an example. Because the big majority of candidates now passing the mains examination are engineers. And some of the engineering subjects like electronics, they are not there in the UPSC's list of options. So what these engineers do is, they have, of course, mechanical, electrical, civil, these are options available. The other students, they go in for geography or public administration, sociology, international relations, anthropology, and these are some of the favorite subjects with the candidates who feel that they may not, their optional is their academic subject is not available. So these are options definitely, but always remember that you are competing with persons who have graduated in those subjects. With that, if you are studying thoroughly, preparing intensely for the examinations, definitely you can score well in a new subject which is identified. And one favorite optional subject these days is Malayalam language and literature. And lots of students have been very, very successful with Malayalam literature. Even one of the first rank holders, who is now a collector of Thrissur, she had Malayalam as an optional subject, although she is an engineer. The optional is the choice of the optional subject is entirely with the candidate himself. Make that choice, make an intelligent choice. And one more relevant thing is that some of these subjects are helpful for the general studies papers as well. Because general studies would include a bit of economics, bit of sociology, bit of history, geography, environment. So all these things are there. So it's a personal choice, but it should be done intelligently and assess yourself. What is my best subject? Which is a subject in which I can score the highest marks. Okay.
Thanks, sir.
Good evening, sir. My name is Joe. I would like to know more about Indian Foreign Service, since I am much more interested towards foreign service.
So the Indian Foreign Service is a very, very prestigious service. It is all the diplomats come from that service, and it's becoming increasingly important because India's overall value in the global political scenario is going up. So, and diplomacy in the past, you would define an ambassador as a person who lies abroad for the sake of his country. Lies abroad means there's two meanings, as you know. He can be telling lies, or he can be just lying down. So, but then these days things are different. You cannot really lie because information is very much available. Whatever comes in the Malayalam Manorama newspaper would be available to the US intelligence agencies. They would have looked at it. So like that, information is there everywhere. So now the important thing is that one has to be reasonably proficient in economics and trade, because these are becoming important in international relations. So now I think trade is becoming one of the most important factors in the diplomatic job itself. Indian Foreign Service definitely is a very, very prestigious thing in the past. In fact, the toppers, the most high scoring candidates, the toppers used to opt for the Indian Foreign Service in the past. Slowly it has come down. And these days, when I'm looking at the options, the Indian Foreign Service comes often at number 3 or 4. But definitely, there are several candidates who are opting for the Indian Foreign Service as number 1 also. But the numbers are not that high. If you have an aptitude, definitely it's a very, very good service.
Thank you, sir.
And to add to it, the Indian diaspora abroad is again becoming larger and larger. So when you have a bigger diaspora, it means that you have to serve more people from your country, or even if they may have become citizens of that country, and if they are no longer citizens, but you consider them as part of diaspora, they are part of your culture, your tradition and all that, you have to look after them. So again, that's another interesting area in which the IFS officers can contribute. Okay. Professor Sumarnar, we are well past our time, but I'm okay. But okay.
Hello, sir. My name is Anaka. Sir, I have seen usually in many films that when an IAS officer has to take any decisions in crucial situations, they have to face some political interference or political pressures from the ruling party or opposite parties. So, have you have any such experience that you have to face political pressures or political interference, or how you manage to take right decision in such situations? I have to know, sir.
It is a reality that political interference is there. But then, you have to look at it from two angles. What is the mandate of the Constitution of India? The mandate of the Constitution is that there shall be an elected government in power, which means the political party which secures the majority in the elections, they come to power in the state and they rule the state. The power to take decisions at the top level, at the policy level, is with the elected ministers who are the politicians. So their taking decisions is one thing. The secretary to government, which is the position held by the IAS officers, and the role is a supportive and educative role, which means that you give all the inputs for the policy decision at the secretariat level. You give the inputs, you assist in designing programs, policies, and all that. And the final decision is taken by the political decision by the minister or by the cabinet, whatever it is. Now, the problem of political interference is more, it's of a different nature when it comes to field jobs, like one is a district collector. The local MLA from the ruling party would probably want to influence you to take decisions. And often these decisions are competitive, which means that there will be one political party on one side, another political party on another side. And these are occasions which test the caliber of the officers. This is where your quality is tested. How are you, how able are you to withstand the types of pressures that come? The simple thing, the simple test is who is right, what is it that should be done as per the law of the land. Do that only. Whatever be the type of pressures, you do only whatever is what is legal and what is fair. And it's not only that you should do it fairly, but you must also give the impression and the perception should be that you have done it rightly. And that this is what creates the image of the officers of civil services. Where officers fail in that, where they yield to local political pressures and act by the mandate of the local politicians, go by what the district party chief would tell you, definitely no more. I mean, the civil service loses its relevance. And I'll take you back to that quote of Ambedkar, which I read out. It is this independence of the civil service which can sustain the administration of the country.
Thank you, sir.
I have had experiences, but I'm not going into details because, for example, in the introduction, Professor Suvarna mentioned that I was collector at Kottayam. And when I was collector at Kottayam, there have been occasions when I had three ministers from the state, from the district. Mr. K Mohan, Mr. Umanchandi, and there was one Mr. Srinivasan in those days. So, and Mr. P.J. Joseph was from the adjoining district, but he was also keenly interested in, and all these interests were conflicting. It's not that they had a common interest. So when these interests conflict, simple things, I'll tell you simple things. In those days, the collector was the chairman of the regional transport authority, which gives permits for private buses to operate. So you have a route, you have 4 applicants. So one applicant would be K Mohan's man, one applicant would be a congressman, one applicant would be a P.J. Joseph fellow from Todupuzha, one somebody else. So when it comes like this, and in the Congress, there are groups. There were groups, there are still groups. So when it happens like that, what is the best way of taking a decision? Go by the merits of each case. Go by the merits, take a decision on merits. You can defend that to anybody. And ultimately, what is it that that can be done to you? The worst is a transfer. And of course, the district collector's job is something which any civil servant aspires to hold for a reasonable period in his career. But then you may be transferred to another district. How does it matter? You may be transferred to secretariat job. How does it matter? So if you have that spirit in you, I think it's not difficult. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Hi, sir. Myself, Annette. So you just said that you came to service at a very young age.
Sorry, I didn't hear your name.
Sir, I'm Annette.
So you said that you came to service at a very young age. So I just want to know, was it that challenging for you, or was your career that challenging, or is there any such experiences that you can share?
Yeah, I mean, the service was challenging because, as I mentioned, I joined at the age of 22. There's a 2 years training program, of which 1 year is in a district itself. So my regular posting was at the age of 24. My first job was as the sub-collector and sub-divisional magistrate and revenue divisional officer of Thiruvananthapuram. So that was my first job. There were challenges. I mean, I'm not going to narrate, the types of things, but I can tell you one story which may be of interest to you. One day, suddenly a call came to me from the collector. The collector said, "You have to go to the central jail. There is a problem in the central jail in Trivandrum." And of course, the collector was a lady, an old lady. She didn't tell me the details, but I checked up with the jail superintendent. And the problem was that 8 prison inmates, 8 prisoners, had climbed to the top of the tower in the Pujapura Central Jail. I'm sure you'd have seen this tower in some Malayalam films. So they climbed to the top of this tower. They lifted a watchman who was there, a warder who was there standing on top, threw him down, and he died. And they had something like some bombs and all in their hands. They are refusing to come down. They want the chief minister to come. Chief minister is out of station. They want. Then they wanted the collector to come. Collector somehow wanted to avoid going. So finally, I was asked to go. So I went there, and when I went there, these people were still at the top of this tower, and they were in a very, very agitated, violent mood. So I told them, "You come down, and we'll talk." And they said, "So if you come down, they will beat me, and they will beat us, and it's very, very unsafe." And then these people also showed some sort of spherical thing in their hands, covered with some golden paper and all that. So these are bombs. We'll throw them down and all. So after a lot of persuasion, they refused to come down. Then I told them, "You come to the bottom of the tower. I will come in alone." And then, of course, the police commissioner said, "Don't go in alone. They could be dangerous." But I said, "Nothing doing. I mean, I can talk to them." So I went into the base of the tower alone. Those people came down. I talked to them, and then, of course, they had quite a few complaints about the food, medical attention, and all those things. Harassment, torture by some staff members, and all that. So I took note of this, but then I told them, "You have committed a crime of murder when you are already undergoing a sentence. So you will be taken into custody by the police." Because they didn't want to go back into the hands of the prison staff, who would definitely have handled them very, very strongly. So I handed them over to the police. The police took them off. And, of course, from the early stages, this is I would say one of the most memorable events early in my career.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, sir. My name is Kavita. How it feels to be an IAS? What changes had occurred in your life after getting such a destination?
Would you mind repeating the question?
How it feels to be an IAS? What changes had occurred in your life after getting such a destination?
Okay, changes. Lots of changes happened because as I told you, I come from an ordinary rural family, my parents were, my father and mother were teachers, and we were what you would say an ordinary family. But of course, reasonably self-sufficient in the sense teachers were paid okay. I mean, in the sense maybe better than the agricultural community which is around us. Changes happened, personal changes, yes, definitely, because the first thing that happens when somebody gets into the IAS is rich people send representatives to hook you as a son-in-law. So that is one of the first casualties that happens in the when you get selected to the IAS. So such things I had, such experiences also. Went through all that, but then I don't know. But my own self-assessment is that none of this got into my head. I have always maintained my calm. I have always maintained my patience. I have always maintained, my consideration for everything that is for everything that is around me, for the people I interact with. I've been rated as a good listener by people who have approached me. So that way, I consider myself as someone who served the service in a way a civil servant should be serving.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, sir. My name is Arshad. So I would like to know what were the main source of references when you wrote the civil service examination during that time?
The preferences of service?
For the examinations.
Yeah, preference of what? The choice of services or subjects, or what is it that you're
Subjects.
Subjects, okay. No. In those days, the examination pattern was entirely different because there was no preliminary examination. There was one examination. You had 3 compulsory papers of essay, general English, and general knowledge, and you had 5 optional papers. Actually, 3 lower papers and 2 higher papers. So you had to choose 3 optionals in those days. So I had studied chemistry in college, so I thought that could be one of my options. Another subject was, I thought easy to study would be Indian history. So that was one of my choices. The other was a tough subject for someone who has not studied it, English literature. So I took the courage to study English literature by myself and opted that. And for the 2 higher papers also, I offered English literature and Indian history. And of these 5 papers, my lowest marks were in chemistry. So that is, so that explains how it is.
Thank you, sir.
But now it is only one optional subject, 2 papers of that. And I don't know, because there have been recommendations that even that must be taken out. That is, the candidates must need do only general papers, and there need not be an optional paper, because some optionals appear to give easy marks to candidates. And there is a feeling that even Malayalam as an optional has been giving good marks to the candidates. And of course, the UPSC has systems for moderation also. They have evolved some scientific systems for moderation also. When high marks are given to language papers, because these language papers are scrutinized by the teachers from those areas, and they sometimes could be liberal in spite of whatever directions they give. So there are systems for moderation as well.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. My name is Reshma Redunathan. I have a question that for a beginner, as a fresher, what preparation should I take to prepare for a IAS examination?
Yeah, what you should do is first decide in which year you want to take the examination. As I told you, the applications are invited in February, prelims are in June. So decide when you want to take the examination. And then, depending on the time available, have your plans for preparation. There is a curriculum which is set out. There is a clear indication of what subjects would be covered. The previous year's question papers are available. You can look at them and see the types of questions that are asked. And a lot of material is now available on the internet. A lot of free material is available. And there are any number of coaching centers where they do some helpful job in the sense that some analysis of trends in questions and all that. These are done by the institute. So while in my days we never bothered about it was disgraced to go to an institute, but these days you can depend on them to contribute something to your preparation, because the analysis of previous question papers is a very important, a very useful input. So you can get that done by them, and then depending on the time that is available with you, plan your studies. And although the first examination is of objective type, practice writing as well, because once the results come, you get just about 2 months for the mains examination. So you have to, the mains exams are crucial. So you have to practice writing as well. So do it simultaneously, prelims and mains. It helps.
Thank you.
It's a, I mean, in 2 minutes, one cannot really, give an advice on that. But this is the broad structure of what you should be doing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sir, my name is Jose Thomas. So what are the opportunities after KS? Can we reach same position like IPS, IAS in course of time after cracking KS?
No, KAS is conceived as the feeder to the IAS, which means that the officers selected to the KAS will work at district level jobs or below the collectors. They could be deputy collector equivalent jobs. And actually, after 8 years of service, KAS officers are entitled to be selected to the IAS. Because all appointments to the IAS are not by direct recruitment. 1/3 positions are filled up by selection and promotion. And this selection, this promotion will happen from the Kerala Administrative Service. So if there are vacancies, and there are now of course vacancies, so every year a certain number of KAS officers will get promoted to the IAS. So that way it's a very, very good career opportunity, because normal direct recruit IAS officers have limited opportunity to get their home cadre. Just maybe in every year, maybe 2 officers or 3 at the most get their the home cadre. Normally it's just 1 or 2, 1 to 3, between 1 and 3. Whereas the KAS officer can get promoted to the IAS and be in his own home state. So that way it's a great opportunity. KAS, that way is a good service. Kerala government has been very patronizing, and they have gone beyond what Professor Sumarna and I recommended as their pay scales. So good.
So good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Sajla Hanif. From what you have said, I heard that an efficient all India service is necessary for the proper administration in India, especially being a federal state. So for a country where central state relations are very intricate, and also the all India services, the personnel in the all India services have a direct control by the center. is it against the federal autonomy of the country being any the existence of All India service?
Okay, now the All India services, like most of the other things, they are a creation of the Constitution. There's what is called Article 312 of the Constitution, by which the All India services are created. And initially, the IAS and IPS, which existed even before the Constitution, was brought as All India services. Then there was a provision made for an All India judicial service, which has not happened so far. And the Supreme Court, High Courts are against it because probably they may lose some of their powers and control when All India services come. And then something interesting is that a new All India service can be created by a resolution of the Rajya Sabha. Normally, I'm sure you would have learned a bit of civics and the Constitution and all that. The Lok Sabha is considered the powerful House of Parliament. But for creation of an All India service, it is the Rajya Sabha which has the powers. The Indian Forest Service has been created, and that is the only service so created. Now, All India services, the structure is that the central government creates, conducts a recruitment. The President of India makes the appointment. Officers are appointed to state cadres. Officers in state cadres are under the disciplinary and administrative control of the state governments. They are often called up to the central government to serve. The practice so far has been one of coexistence between the center and the states. But then now there is a problem because the central government finds that there are very few takers from the All India services for the central government jobs. I do not want to discuss the reasons, but there must be valid reasons if the officers are not very happy to go and work under the central government. Now, the central government therefore wants more powers to draw officers from states and appoint them in the central government, which has partial justification because these officers are recruited for serving the center also. They have to go, and people will have to be compelled to go also if they are unwilling to go. So this is something in which there is a dispute going on between the states and the center right now. And with aggressive chief ministers like Mamata Banerjee and all that, they create issues on everything because Mamata is such a fighter that she picks up fights. I mean, even when a fight is not warranted, she's capable of picking up fights. So Kerala, Tamil Nadu, they all resisted, they have objected to the proposed amendment by the central government. So, but then ultimately it has to be a sort of coexistence. The center needs officers. If state officers do not go to the center, it will definitely affect the quality of administration at the national level. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, sir. I am Nanda. My question is, during your service period, was there any situation occur that challenged your ethics?
I would say no, because my ethics are mine, my conscience is mine, and I have not given it on lease to anybody. So I had absolutely no occasion to feel that I have to do something unethical. There have been demands, there have been requests, there have been pressures, there have been all types of influences brought on you. Like it's very, very interesting. I mean, somebody will, somebody who wants to come to you will go to your native village, find out the primary school teacher who taught you, and bring that teacher along. Because you still respect your primary school teacher. So they will bring the teacher along and to represent something. If it is genuine, you definitely will do it. if you can do it. But if it is not, then you don't do it. In fact, immediately after my retirement, as a businessman who was into lots of things, he told me, "Sir, when you were in the industries department, you were principal secretary, and we had a few things. We were conducting a lot of research as to what gives you the kick. We made lots of inquiries. We found that you are not influenced by money, liquor, women, or whatever it is. So, or even foreign travel. So, what is it that gives you a kick?" So I said, "Yeah, I mean, I don't need these things. So I must be a totally useless person because I'm not enamored of all these things. So I may have been maybe I am still a useless person without interest in these things." So, well, I've been true to my conscience, and it has helped me. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Any more question? I think that is the
Good.
Yeah, one more persons.
I did not count the number, but I'm very happy to see that most of them had something to discuss. And as we were discussing earlier, one of the, even when I'm doing these model interviews for the civil service aspirants, one problem with the students from Kerala is their inability or lack of capability in oral communication. Group discussions or making presentations and all maybe doesn't happen much except in some of the better academic institutions. So it is definitely necessary that you speak out, you intervene whenever you get an opportunity to intervene and talk, and that is definitely a quality required if you are to be successful at personality test, not only in the civil services but even in other professional jobs in economics or financial technology, wherever it is. You need to sort of have that capacity for interaction, for oral expression. And I'm so happy to see Professor Sumarna. I'm happy to see your students, coming out forthrightly and asking direct questions.
Now, probably we come to the end of the program, and I must profusely thank you for spending so much of time with us. In fact, our students have been able to skew something out of you, which probably you didn't want to discuss immediately. And I'm sure if we had a face-to-face interaction, you would have confronted more questions, and probably more time you would have been compelled to spend here. Probably in the future, in the near future itself, we may have occasion to physically be present here and interact with our students. We will certainly look forward to your support and cooperation in running our program, and your academic interest and your expertise in administration will be of great use to our students. And I must thank you for your for kindly accepting our invitation and giving so much of time to our students. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, the meeting is over, isn't it, students?